Welcome to our I Am Workshop Conversation Series, a transformative journey designed to inspire self-discovery and ignite your creative spirit. With your hosts, Ana Maria Davalos, Maria Lanes, and Maclovia Martel.
So, Maclovia, in life, sometimes we go through difficult experiences, right? And for me, it has been these difficult experiences have pushed me into doing incredible things. So, what's happened in your life? Have you had an experience like this, coming from a difficult place and then using creativity to do something that you never imagined?
Yes. Well, first, let me say that I've always been surrounded by art and artists. My parents, well, my grandfather was a post-impressionist painter, and then both my parents were Broadway dancers. And so we always had very eclectic dinners and people that would come over and talk about art or writing or music. And so ever since I was young, I always knew I wanted to become an artist, but I didn't know in what vein, what type of artist. So I always knew I wanted to go to art school, and I did. And then after my art experience, I went into music. And for me, the experience of, well, college in the first place at an art school is an amazing experience. Just talking to people and really, the critiques and getting critiqued, which is hard on your ego, very difficult for your ego, but you tend to get used to the fact that, some people like your work, some people don't. So I think, for me with music as well, too, I just feel that music and art and creativity has always been a huge experience in my life, and it has transformed me into a documentarian as of now, from the art world to the music to.
But how did you stumble into this work?
Well, I decided to make a documentary on my mother. Who's up here. My mother is up there. She's
where?
Look at her.
Yeah. So my mother I went into her room when I always went into a room. You go into your parents' room, you find things. I found suitcases filled with black and white photos of dancers and writers and huge suitcases. So I finally asked my mom about her career, and she was the first Mexican on Broadway. She was in the original West Side Story on Broadway.
Did you know that Carmen Gutierrez was the first Mexican on Broadway?
She was in The King and I. She was in Candide. She was in all these shows.
What year was this, Mac?
This was, well, she started in the late 40s with her first Broadway show. And then 1957, she did West Side Story with Leonard Bernstein and Stephen Sondheim. And so I decided to make a documentary on her life.
So you stumbled into these amazing pictures. And you went, what is this? Oh my God.
Yeah. Originally I wanted it to be a story told to my brother's children, to my niece and nephew. And then it took me 2 years. You have to get all the photos together. And then I would, sometimes I would just interview her at a sushi restaurant with my iPhone, but I would ask her questions, and she's very humble, and she didn't want to talk about it at first. And then she said it was in my past. Her friends didn't even know. So then I started, she had a great memory. And so that was my first documentary. And then My friend Michael said,
I keep on asking dates.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So this was
What was this was right after college because you started college, right?
No,
And it was
no,
years
this
no,
was
after.
no.
in 2012,
Oh, so this
2013.
was, yeah, okay.
Much late. Yeah, this was much
Okay, much
later.
later. So that
Much
was your
later.
first documentary before anything, after the singing and everything you tried. Okay.
Yeah. And from there, I did another documentary, a short one on my grandfather's artwork. But the one on my mother, it went to Lincoln Center. And from there, I started working with the producer, Michael. And so we've done about 8 documentaries, short documentaries together. But I know that any art, and both of you could maybe can authenticate this, but it's about layers.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's about when you paint, you draw, then you paint it, and it's all, maybe you want to change it, but it's all about layers. So is music. When you start recording,
Yeah.
start with the, guitar, then you put in a drums and a bass and keyboards and the vocal. So it's always these layers,
Yeah.
and you see it build. And for me, that experience of creating something, like, did I do that? Do you ever wonder, look what
Yeah.
I
Well, what's interesting, I think, it's the fact that you engage, right? And you wouldn't let go because it's so easy to just drop it.
exactly, exactly. And
And you
it's
finished
also a
it.
form of
You
meditation.
right.
And I didn't know that when I was younger.
Yeah,
What was your biggest challenge in that?
Well,
Because it for me it's been, I mean, I started recently with the art. I mean, for me it was more about the psychology and everything that I was doing. But what is interesting about this is being with 2 artists. What was your biggest challenge? I mean, you talked about it could be resilience because you were getting judged. I wouldn't say judged, but maybe criticized, because that's the
yeah,
hard part about what you guys do. I mean, especially Maclovia, because you're also writing and presenting. So you have to get used to the good and the bad feedback, right?
exactly. And when you're a musician, you're performing on stage, and you feel
well, you feel
um,
the immediate
all the eyes on you.
emotion.
Yeah, the emotion and the energy that flows through you when you do that. When you're speaking in front of people, you
Mm-hmm.
feel the energy.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel the energy. And that's actually, I think it's a beautiful feeling because you're getting everyone's vibes, you're getting everyone's energy, and it either makes you go up
Well,
or
it's
down.
You're connecting.
You're connecting.
It's a way of connect. It's a different way of connecting. That it
Mhm.
could be through art and music. That it's not just like being a public speaker, right?
well, you get an immediate reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And from that reaction, you have to act quick,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
if the audience is not going towards what you like, you have to switch. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to be a quick thinker. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like I said, I think I feel comfortable in that meditation aspect of it, which I didn't know when I was younger because I used to draw for hours in my room. But I didn't know what time it was. I didn't know,
yeah,
I didn't think about eating. You just create. And it's the same thing with music when you're recording or writing as a writer, also layers. It's always these I
yeah.
don't know, it's this beautiful feeling,
Well, I
especially.
think
Connecting with the flow. Because
Mhm.
I
it's, I mean, for me it has been like, how do you get into the flow? Because at the beginning you can be I don't know, fear of being judged or all the feedbacks that you're going to
no,
get, but once you go
if
into
you're
the
thinking
flow.
about that, yeah, you won't get into the flow. You
So you
know,
have to stop thinking about that and
you
just
should
do
not
what you
think
have to
about
do.
that. You
Mm-hmm.
have to think, because I think that creativity is divine. It's
Mm-hmm.
a place of divinity.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that is a sacred place. So that's a place where, if it's coming from an honest place,
Authentic. If you're authentic, when you're by
it will,
yourself.
it will show. If
Mhm.
you're coming from a place where, like what you're saying, what are they going to think? You're
Yeah.
Will
not
it sell?
starting from the right place.
Yeah, it was when and this is interesting to tell the people that are listening to us, the first time we tried to record, we were very judging ourselves. I mean, what is this going to be like? And remember that we tried with the Q&A, okay, let's talk to Maclovia, but it was not us. And that now we're starting with the I am process, right? So it's how to get into the flow, because while you guys talk about art and artistic, that it's amazing. And I'm thinking, how are we going to connect and just forget that everybody's seeing us? Like, when you're doing a movie or you're doing the art, Lolly, or Maclovia right now, it's about her that she's doing the scripts. I mean, what has been your biggest challenge? I wouldn't say problems, but challenge. I mean, getting over what people think. What has been the toughest part for you?
Well, I think being an artist, you're always worried about finances. It's a, are people going to appreciate it enough? Are they going to, will I get paid for this? Well, so when you feel that you are worth something and that you say, hey, this is how much I'm going to charge, and people are really going to, and you win awards and whatnot, that's a huge challenge to overcome, because there's a lot of insecurity when you're an artist. Sometimes it hurts because it's your heart and soul.
Yeah.
It's your heart and soul. So I can say I'm a grounded person, but I'm not 100% there because I'm human.
Yeah, it's a difficult, it's a challenge, because one side is a transaction.
Yeah.
Right? And the other side is not.
Yes.
It's both sides of the brain. Artists usually use the right side of the brain, and but you have to use the left side, where it's how much I'm going to charge, when are they going to pay me, am I going to live with this or not? Are your parents or your mother saying, oh, it's good for you? Or they are saying, like many other parents would say, no, I mean, this can be just a hobby. And especially living in LA, Maclovia, I mean, you have so much competition there.
Yeah, and that's something that I had to get over, because at a certain point, you kind of want to be better, your ego. You want to be better than this person. You want to be prettier than this person. You want to do better, movies than this person. But instead of thinking about that, I think about what is going to fulfill my heart, and how am I aware of how my being. I think that's really important, to be aware of how, it's about self-acceptance, but it's a being, for me, a more patient person and a better listener, and just being more authentic to myself. And I think that has taken me so many years. And that was a huge challenge, because you can be very selfish in this world of in Hollywood, or I think that was a huge challenge for me.
Ego.
Yeah, ego.
Because you're surrounded by a lot of ego. So I guess that's what you see around. So that's a big challenge.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like a 2x4 across the head, especially when, you think I was a very selfish person. I thought and then when someone says no, you have to start listening when people talk, and you stop talking about yourself and listen. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. And Maclovia, I think back, what did when we're talking about this, my mind goes back to your mom,
It was
right?
very humble. Very
Right?
humble.
I mean, you found this treasure in a box, and she didn't want to talk about. You know, she just quietly put it away. So
It was like finding a treasure, yeah.
Wow.
And then she became a dress designer, which is another amazing facet. And this is in the 1960s, you know, so she was Carmen G of California. That's what her name was, Carmen Gutierrez. But her dress line was Carmen G.
Carmen G.
ah,
Interesting. And
But
what kind of dresses were there?
she was making outfits for herself and then the dancers, like
Oh,
these
it was
tops,
dancers.
like
Okay.
cute tops, silk inside, and then the dancers started buying them. And then they said, "Why don't you try to put them in a boutique store?" So my dad did, and they sold out. And Miles Davis bought some for his wife,
wow.
who is a dancer as well. Um, so it was very interesting. You know, my
But
mom was very advanced.
And your dad in all this?
He sort of managed the business. He became more of she was the creative.
right.
Dad sort
But
of
I like what she kept it to herself. She
Mm-hmm.
put all of that amazing stories that she could just tell everybody, but she just kept it to her. And you brought it up in the open for us to see.
Mhm.
How did she feel about that?
Well, when it played at Lincoln Center in New York, we went and she was a little rock star and she was so happy. Juilliard's dance students wanted to talk to her and she's still very shy. My mother was shy, but if you get her on the stage dancing, she becomes this other person.
That's
And
the flow. Yeah,
yeah, that's
that's
the
flow.
flow. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, she was always the focus of a show because she was just amazing. But for her to talk, sit and have an interview, it was a little difficult.
And what did you learn from her the most after this discovery?
She was way ahead of her time. She was a
Mm.
trendsetter. However,
She was an influencer.
influencer.
Yeah, that's
But
how
she,
millennials say. Yeah.
yeah, however, I think she was she was too shy. She could do anything, but she was shy.
So your mom was your first inspiration for your documentaries. And
My grandfather
oh, your
is his
grandfather,
artwork, and then my mother.
and then your mom. And tell us about your other documentaries. I mean, after the one you did for your mom, how did you start to get these ideas and kept on going more into the documentaries than to the movies itself? Why?
Well, I think when I was younger, I always loved reading biographies
Mm-hmm.
about old movie stars or so I
Mm.
always was fascinated with biographies or autobiographies. And so or how things are made or how things are done. And so the producer, my friend Michael, he had these ideas and he said, "Can you do it?" And I said, "Sure, let's try." So I started making documentaries with him. And the latest ones we did were Tracks, which is the Stumplestein stones in, we filmed it in Amsterdam, the laying of the stones
Mm-hmm.
for people that were victims of the Holocaust who never came home again. So, and then we also made one. That's how I met Lolly, Space for Art with the astronaut Nicole Stott. So I think I think they're interesting. Everyone, you know, if you think about it, everyone has a story.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
really do.
You just have to know how to tell it because I think every person can have something extremely interesting, but some like you said about your mom, some people just like to keep it inside. So this is what we're trying to do is here make this space so everybody can tell us their story. I mean, especially right now, I mean, we've been talking with Mac and Lolly about spirituality. We've been talking about, well, I've been doing workshops with these two fabulous women. But what was the turning point that right now, like we can talk about energy and how the art can be healing in your life? What changed everything?
When I became more of a spiritual being I had a frightening experience. My parents had a hacienda, it was older. And one room was always cold. And my brother had slept there and then he moved out and then I took his room. And one night I went to bed and I woke up in the middle of the night, went to the bathroom, looked in the mirror and said, it'd be funny if I saw a ghost tonight. I just said that.
You're
I don't know.
crazy.
I just said that. And then I went to bed and I was that in between asleep and awake. And I heard an animal outside the window. I thought it was a raccoon or possum, but I was frozen. I couldn't move. And I saw this energy circle coming in through the window.
Oh my God.
And the sheets started going like this. And I was frozen. And then I heard someone behind me. It was making like a pig sound. It was not good.
Oh,
And it was 3:06 in the morning. And then I said, God, please help me. I said, Jesus, help me. And then all of a sudden I blinked and it was 3 hours later and the morning light just started to come in the room. And it was so black when this was happening, like black, black, black.
mm.
And then the next night, I started having the same issue, like this feeling of dread when I would go to sleep and something was going to happen, this blackness coming. So I called my friend.
But fear, right? What did you
Very
feel?
fearful.
Fear.
I was terrified. And I actually
Mhm.
came home from work and my mom said, I had this weird dream about you last night that you were terrified and you came in my room and I was too tired. I was like, oh, she was like, oh, not now. And even at work, someone said, it looks like you saw a ghost. I remember someone said that.
I did.
I did. Well, let me just tell you. And so
Yeah,
my friend came over she's she's a light worker. And she had her sage and her holy water and put it in the room and the different rooms. Nothing happened after. It was gone.
oh wow.
And she said, here's a book. It's called Seed of the Soul by Gary Zukov. So I started to read that. Then I started reading other books on
Hold on a second.
spirituality and where do we go? I was agnostic. I didn't believe. So I didn't know. I didn't really think about spirituality.
Until
My
you,
parents were not religious. My mom was a Catholic, but for me, reading all this about, oh, this is what happens, the energy, where we go, there is a heaven, there is a place. It's how
right.
we think. Thoughts are everything. How do you manifest? So that was 20 years ago. So
20 years ago. Now you've
now you go to YouTube and you see people talking, you see Eckhart Tolle, you see all these,
right.
and
No, and it's like without that information, it's like you were going blind,
Mhm.
like Mr. Magoo.
Yeah, my father was
Right?
he didn't believe in anything. He believed in space and the universe,
Right.
but that was it. When you die, you die. And then I started seeing psychics and this and that, and it was,
Well,
I
those
love
things
it.
add like a little spice to life, because we love to believe,
Hmm.
right? It's part
Yeah.
of the storytelling. When I was little in Ecuador, that was the best, stories was the most important thing we would do, tell each other scary stories.
But
Yeah.
then I asked my brother, I'm like, Paul, did you ever have any experiences? He's like, oh yeah, felt like someone was sitting on my chest. I said, how come you didn't say anything. He says, I don't know. I didn't know what was happening.
Right? But
And you
it's
don't want to
those,
tell people because sometimes we fear that they're going to think we're weird. So we just, it's like having an
Very matter
invisible
of fact
friend. We don't
science.
say
So
it. Yeah.
yeah, that experience ch changed me. Spirit. I became a spiritual person after that.
What about this is something that we apart from the documentaries, the movies, I mean, you've won prizes. I think that's very important. Um, what was your best challenge and the one that you think if from everything you have done, what is your favorite, if I could say that?
Now I'm doing my own
ah,
documentary, and it's challenging because I'm filming. It's a French Jewish woman who is 100 and well now she's 104 years old, and I've been going to her house for 2.5 years filming her having tea, but this is a feature length, and this has been very challenging because I'm not working with anyone else. It's just me. So I'm producing, directing, filming, editing, and it's quite challenging.
Marketing.
Yeah, trying to get grants.
Mhm.
But
yeah.
it's that is quite it's almost like I was having dreams about giant waves.
Hmm.
Giant waves crashing, and I was in this concrete structure with blown out windows, and I could hear the waves and see them coming through the window, and I'm trying to climb up. Yeah. And my dreams, I don't know if it's because I'm an artist, but I'm very vivid. My
Yeah.
dreams are very, very real, and I love dreaming. It's like a show.
Did
And
you wake up in the
I'll
middle of the
wake up
dream?
and go right back to the same. It's like
You're
continued.
good. That's really difficult to do.
I
I
don't
can't.
I don't know what I'm doing. I just go back to sleep and I'm like, oh, continued.
You
It's
know
the
what you should do? You
sequel.
should be writing because a lot of people forget. So at the moment you wake up, I mean, you have to have a journal and just start writing because that's going to help you maybe know your
Sometimes
process.
I'll talk into my phone.
Exactly.
And then because in the morning I usually wake up and try to manifest, so I write down how I want my day to be. I just
And
write it down from walking my dog to the end of the day. How do I want it to be?
Visualizing.
I I I write it, and then I come home and go over it.
so that's part of your process, your life process.
That's part of my process. And then I have a year plan that I read every night.
Uh-huh.
And I just cross off things that have happened.
That's so
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, it's really
But
beautiful.
What's your normal day? Like suppose let's talk about Monday. I mean, you wake up, you go to work, and when
Yeah,
do
I
you
teach
start your
as well.
creative?
So I go
Mm-hmm.
to work, elementary school, and then after work I walk my dog, then I go to work. And I love the children. I love children. I always have to be around children because talk about authentic. Children are the best. They
mhm.
will tell you if there's a booger in your nose. They will tell you. They will tell you. Um, if you're looking pretty today, or if they just say the most amazing things. So I just love being around children. So I do that. Then I come home and I will take my dog out again, and then I start editing. I'll edit
Mhm.
Writing
my
and
doc.
editing. Yeah.
Mhm. When I relax, I just love just doing nothing, and sometimes just sitting and meditating. And for me, or laying down and just meditating and thinking
Yeah.
about like
We
downloading.
did we painted with Maclovia. That was what, like 4 months ago? I don't remember. Remember what you painted here? She painted an Oscar. Remember that we were gonna manifest an Oscar
Oh, yeah,
for
for the
your next
documentary.
movie?
Yeah.
And I was teasing her that that's gonna be Oscar Perez. Remember? They look like a person.
Oscar Mayer
And that's
Wiener.
how you that's another story that we're gonna talk with Lolly next week. I mean, how to manifest through art, because that has been amazing, because everybody has a story. So we tried that, Lolly. You were not here, but Lolly was
Well,
painting that.
Well, I went for the Space for Art
yeah,
with you, Lolly,
Yeah,
and
that was April, I
that was
think, right?
in Seattle, the Seattle
in Seattle,
Mm-hmm.
Flight
and
Museum.
in the Flight Museum, and it was listening to the audience. The response was really incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Because we may like it because we, Maclovia did it, but um, when you see how it changes perspective and how what it means to these kids to have participated in a project and to have, them see it on the big screen, um, and listen to them what they feel about it's meaningful.
Yeah.
And we were very lucky with Maclovia that the audience was receptive and that, they had participated and they got to see what, Maclovia did. So that was really
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was
Now,
really
what's interesting about this, how the three of us got together. I mean, because I come from a completely different, I mean, you guys were together. I mean, I went to what? It was in Hollywood, right? I went to see Lolly's film. And that's how I found Maclovia. I mean, there was this lady that just came in and sat there.
I guess I
And
am the connector.
yeah, you're the
Oh, you're the
connector.
networker.
Yeah.
Because I
Because I
met,
was sitting in another table completely.
but Lolly had talked about you, and
Yeah.
I didn't know it
I didn't
was
know.
you when we were at the Roosevelt Hotel by the
Yeah, you
pool.
liked my shoes.
I complimented your shoes, and then I sat down, and you're like, "Oh, I'm Annie. I'm Lolly," and then I was like, "Oh, you're the friend of Lolly." And then I know when I met Lolly, we connected
You connected directly.
immediately.
And Lolly, you were talking to me about Maclovia, but when I saw you in that place in Hollywood, I didn't know it was Maclovia that sat on my table. And
Oh,
I was
because
like,
there were
who
so
is
many
this
people.
lady?
And
Yeah.
then you brought out your pendulum.
Oh, you remember that.
Yeah. And then we just were talking and talking and talking. We sat next to each other. We just couldn't stop talking. And then I came to visit you, Annie, in San Diego.
We did the healing session.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt it. I could feel tingling. And then I came to your house and you and your husband were
Uh-huh.
doing energy and I
Yeah.
felt it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, no, let's paint, let's do healing. And we were just talking and talking. Yeah. How she came
I
to
think
DC.
we all connected because we're on the same energy
Frequency.
frequency. We're on the
Yeah.
Well,
same frequency. We're
when
all
we met, I don't know what it was, but it was instant. It was like if I had known you from before.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like if I had seen you yesterday.
Mhm.
And since you were working on the documentary, it was so, it felt normal. It felt like
Mm-hmm.
we were like family.
How would you define the spirituality? Yeah.
I would define it as a frequency and a acceptance of yourself, and just know that everything is you're guided on this earth. And if you just go with the flow, things work out much better than when you resist. And so I think that that's something I have learned. Stop swimming up the stream, just go with the flow and know that you are being guided and help and ask for it. Ask for help. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, spirituality is, well, it's the universal knowledge, it's source energy, it's angels and guides, it's
Connections.
ancestors. It's we're all connected. So if we're all connected, when we meet someone
Hmm.
that we've probably had many lives with, that we feel it and we know it.
That's a question for Lolly. I'm the one that they're doing the interviews. Lolly is good in this as an empath, because I think both of you are empaths, but she has this feeling. I mean, when I talk to Lolly or we've been with another person, she has this intuition amazingly, and it's like, no, yes. And somehow it becomes true. And it's like, no, I said, no, Lolly, I don't think so. And 2 days later, it's like, oh my God, this happened. So it's kind of like observing. And I always say something, what is the difference between intuition and assuming? And that's what I always try to explain to my clients. When we assume, it comes from stress. So we have to first check ourselves, not to be under stress, and that we're not judging, because if we're judging, it's not intuition. But when you're just observing, we don't know these people, so we have nothing about them whatsoever. I mean, I call it reading the room, and I think artists and people that are in this creative path can read the room better than entrepreneurs. I mean, I work with both, so I love artists.
Something I notice, and I don't know if you do this, but I feel other people's feelings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to feel, and usually I will go up to someone because I know that they're feeling, I don't know, insecure, afraid, and I'll just go up to them and introduce myself and make them feel relaxed.
Body language.
Yeah, it's body language, but it's also, it's body language.
It's a feeling. It's a feeling. You just have to learn.
I do feel, especially with children, I feel their feelings because they're so authentic and they don't hide them. But yeah, I love connecting with people.
Yeah.
It's very important to me. And I tended to be very judgmental when I was younger, and now I am I think of my heart as a lotus flower opening up. And I try to inhale and do this meditation where my heart it's just like that. And you notice that you're more compassionate with people.
So, to finish up, what is your next project?
Anything I do, I want it to be from my heart. And I don't want it to be because it's trendy. I want it to be my heart. And when you're writing, or if you're editing or doing music and you feel that tingle, your spine, I think you're on course. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's like a chill down your spine. And when you're painting, Lolly, when you know that you created something beautiful, you just have this tingle. And I think so. Anything I create, I want that feeling. And if I don't, I usually get it. But if I don't, it's probably not what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
The same happens with people, right? When you're talking to somebody and
you get that when you
cannot connect, and you don't get that kind of tingle.
Yeah, it's a frequency, it's an energy, and so it's what's in your heart, and I think what's authentic to you. And you're probably getting a little help from your spirit guides, but that's important. And be good to people.
Yeah. And the important in this path of call it energy, spirituality, whatever you want to call it, it has to do with your beliefs also, because I was reading this book the other day. So people that tend to be Christians, right, or either Catholics or even Jewish, right, angels. But for other clients that I have seen, they're not angels, they can be animals. So the spirit animal comes in instead. So that's when you see that the universe is perfect. It gives you what you think. Is like the manifesting. We were talking with Lolly remember Lolly the other day. You can manifest everything, but what stays with you manifest who you are, not what you want, because we can want a lot of things, but if they're not the I am, they're not us. I mean, it disappears. And I think that has been happening in the three of us in all our lives. I mean, things that have been disappearing, and it's not for us. So I don't know if Loli, you want to talk about an example or another example, Maclovia?
Be true to yourself and love yourself. Because when you love yourself, you love others.
And be careful of your thoughts.
Because your thoughts are everything. They are.
Yeah.
Keep them positive.
And it's not like, we are manifestors every second of the day. And it's you manifest the good and the bad.
Like the ghost.
Yeah,
what if? Okay, we know.
Yeah, she did. Maclovia, she's like, where's the ghost? It showed up.
I think that situation, I think I know why it happened.
Why?
Because I think it happened for me to become spiritual.
Yeah, because you didn't believe in anything. Remember
I didn't
that you were
believe in
telling me
anything,
that
and then
Yeah.
it was a little slap in the face, kind of like, hey, you need to. This is what you are supposed to be doing. This is how you create. It's spirituality. It's vibration. It's love.
Yeah.
So that's just be good to yourself and be good to other people.
Here's the ending.
Yeah.
He appeared. I mean, he has a problem with codependency.
Thank you, Maclovia. It was excellent.
Thanks to you. Thanks
I'm looking forward to finding out more about you.
Thank you from the I Am group, and we'll see you next time.